Welcome to the podcast Entrepreneurship Dives, where we dive deep into the research, data, facts, and random thoughts behind and about entrepreneurship. Here's something that blew my mind. Only about 10% of entrepreneurs ever try crowdfunding a second time, even though platforms like Kickstarter handle billions in funding each year. The real story behind those numbers reveals something fascinating about how different countries' financial systems shape entrepreneurial behavior. Today's podcast is about the recently published paper in Technovation, authored by Ahmed Sawaid, Shaker Zara, and Sebastian Aparicio. My name is Jessica, and I am interviewing Sebastian. Hi, Sebastian. That's such a surprisingly low number. What makes so many creators just try it once and never return?
Well, this comprehensive study of over 177,000 Kickstarter campaigns across 25 countries found it's not just about the individual entrepreneurs, it's about the entire financial ecosystem they're operating in.
So you're telling me the local banking system actually influences whether someone returns to crowdfunding?
Exactly right. And here's where it gets really interesting. We identified three major institutional factors: how easy it is to get traditional credit, how well investors are protected, and how bankruptcy laws work in each country.
That makes sense. I imagine if it's really hard to get a bank loan, crowdfunding becomes more attractive.
Precisely. We identified this as a substitution effect. When traditional financing is harder to access, entrepreneurs are more likely to turn to crowdfunding. But here's the fascinating part. This effect changes dramatically as entrepreneurs gain experience.
How does that experience factor change things?
Well, for first-time creators in countries with good access to credit, they're less likely to try crowdfunding again. But, and this is where it gets interesting, for serial entrepreneurs who've run multiple campaigns, the local credit environment becomes almost irrelevant to their decision-making.
So once they get a taste for crowdfunding, they stick with it regardless of other options?
That's part of it, but there's more to the story. The research showed that these experienced creators actually become more strategic about using crowdfunding to bypass certain regulations, especially in countries with strict investor protection laws.
Oh, wow. So they're actually using crowdfunding as a way to avoid red tape?
You've got it. And here's a surprising finding. Better bankruptcy protection actually made both new and experienced entrepreneurs less likely to use crowdfunding again. We found that when failure is less costly, entrepreneurs feel more comfortable taking risks with traditional financing.
That's really counterintuitive. I would have thought better bankruptcy protection would encourage more experimentation with different funding methods.
You'd think so, right? But it seems that when the consequences of failure are less severe, entrepreneurs don't feel as much need to use crowdfunding as a way to test the market first.
Let's talk about the gender aspect. Did you guys find any differences there?
Yes, and it's quite significant. Women were consistently less likely to use international crowdfunding platforms, even though they often face more challenges accessing traditional funding. We suggest this could be due to various systemic barriers.
That's concerning, especially if crowdfunding is supposed to be this great equalizer in access to capital.
Absolutely right. And it's why we recommend targeted programs like specialized grants or training workshops to help address these disparities. We also found that crowdfunding platforms themselves could play a crucial role in making their services more accessible.
What kind of role are we talking about?
Think about special onboarding programs for first-time creators, reduced fees for underrepresented groups, and loyalty benefits for successful serial creators. The platforms could essentially become bridges to help overcome these institutional barriers.
So it's really about creating a more inclusive ecosystem?
Exactly. And the implications go beyond just individual success stories. Our research suggests that in developing countries, where traditional financing might be harder to come by, making international crowdfunding more accessible could have significant economic benefits.
That's fascinating. It's like crowdfunding could become a tool for economic development.
And that's really the bigger picture here. Crowdfunding isn't just about individual projects anymore. It's becoming an alternative financial system that interacts with and sometimes challenges traditional institutional structures.
Looking ahead, what do you think this means for the future of entrepreneurial financing?
Well, our research suggests we're likely to see more sophisticated hybrid approaches, where entrepreneurs strategically combine traditional and alternative funding sources based on their local context. It's not about choosing one or the other anymore. It's about understanding how to navigate this complex ecosystem.
That's really going to change how we think about entrepreneurial success, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it highlights how important it is for both policymakers and platform developers to understand these dynamics. The future of entrepreneurial financing might depend less on individual brilliance and more on creating systems that work for everyone, regardless of their local institutional environment.
Thank you all for joining us for this fascinating discussion, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jessica. We hope you and our listeners enjoy the reading and find it practical for those funding-related issues entrepreneurs face on a daily basis. Have a nice day.